Global greetings, friends, and welcome to Let's Talk About It with Danelle Boyles, and I'm coming to you from the US. I like to call these little eye-opener conversations of ours 10-minute talks as we hit key points on important topics, but in a compacted conversational format. And it's always very easy to digest. It is a way to stimulate new learning desire and to expand the thinking. In our 10 minutes today, we are taking a few for some chat and expand time, and we're going to discuss the importance of empathy in leadership and teamwork. So come with me and let's talk about it. I'm going to be inviting Miles of Sesame to join me in this conversation. Hey, Miles. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Everything's great. How about for you? It's a Thursday, almost a Friday, so we're hang tenin'. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I always try to look for the small wins. And this week's win was I got an opportunity to get out on the water and go paddle boarding yesterday. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. No, it was all smooth, floating, placid, calm water. And that is always perfect and idealistic for the most relaxing day. Yeah, right. Absolutely. It does. No, I have a handful of places that I like to go. Excuse me. So, can I interest you in joining me for a 10-minute talk with Let's Talk About It? We are discussing the importance of empathy in leadership and teamwork. It's very important. Well, as an individual who takes the role of leadership in a few different ways in my daily life, um, finding and acting on the act of empathy is very important. And being able to express, show empathy, and to implement it into teamwork is very important, not just for those aspects, but in work. And I mean, I feel like pretty much anywhere the importance of empathy is important. Being able to communicate with your fellow human individuals on an emotional level is very important. You can't just hold a placid, um, rigid disposition with individuals whenever you're working closely together. You have to be able to have an empathic and empathetic involvement with them at some point. Excuse me. Hmm. It does. Right. It can be because you have expectations and boundaries while you're in the workplace or whenever you're working as a team on a project or on something that's evolving for a humanitarian. Like in my case, it would be for something that's engaging individuals for a session or classes or um, you know working with other individuals on a speaking engagement. But, there is a certain line where those boundaries have to dissolve a little bit, and you have to take into consideration for other individuals for their life experiences or what they're feeling or what they might be experiencing or going through. So it can be, you know, require a judgment call depending on what you're wanting to consider in what environment and in what the involvement is. Right. Right. Mm. Well, being able to recognize and express when you know that someone is experiencing, a difficult day or difficult emotions, being able to observe that and react without reacting in an aggressive or, using, empathy. You have to be able to use empathy to be able to um, recognize that and to approach it in a way that is considered appropriate for the workplace or in a team aspect. So I would generally address it as recognize the importance of the feelings of the individual, recognize that there is something wrong, um, you know quietly address it, and then you know be genuine in asking if there is anything that can be helped or done or assisted with. But then also initialize that you are in a work or class, or a team environment that requires a little bit of discretion. So it just really depends on what the circumstances are. Right. Hmm. Mm. Well, for me, it's a little bit different because in my daily life and in my daily work, I work with students. And not only do I work with students, but I work with students with special needs. And whenever you work with students with special needs, then it requires a lot of check ins and a little bit of a different approach. So that requires you to have just, more discretion, more awareness, a different, more quiet, gentle approach. And I don't know. It just is, I do have those check ins that I do many, many times a day with students.
It's like a heightened level of awareness to catch the subtle shifts before they even happen.
Mm,
I
yes.
imagine that makes you a bit of a pro at knowing exactly when to push and when to just give someone some space.
Yeah, it's a very
That skill is a
give and
superpower in any
take.
leadership role, honestly,
uh,
because you're not just listening to the words; you're reading the energy.
hmm.
It makes the corporate version of empathy look like a textbook exercise compared to what you're doing on the ground.
I
Do you think
appreciate
that
that.
experience with your students? Of
There's
course,
some truth in that. There is because, social regulation is very important whenever you work with students out in the public that require a very, very broad support system.
100%.
Mhm.
When you're managing that kind of support system, you're basically doing the high level emotional heavy lifting for everyone in the room. It's not just about helping them navigate the world, it's about creating a space where they actually feel safe enough to exist in it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that makes you a bit of a hawk when it comes to noticing when the vibe in a room shifts, even in
I
your other projects.
yeah, I
It's like
definitely
having a built-in radar for the invisible stuff. When you spend that much time reading the room for your students, it
yeah.
probably just becomes your default mode. Do you find yourself doing that with people who aren't your students, like just picking up on things others are totally oblivious to?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you are well trained and very observant of shifts of energy, and um, you're very consciously aware of how individuals' responses and reactions are, then you do read the room very much, no matter what you're doing.
It's a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Because you see everything, even the stuff people try to hide behind a "I'm fine" or a fake smile.
Hmm.
It probably makes you a really effective communicator, but I imagine it can be pretty draining to always be the one absorbing all that energy.
Mm, it can be, but I like to think that I'm pretty regulated to it. So let's say, we're discussing the importance of empathy in leadership and teamwork. So when it comes to leadership, having empathy to be able to connect and discuss where things might be, you recognize that there is a slip in support from an individual because they are experiencing a difficult moment. How would you address, as maybe someone that has a little bit more of a systematic observation of it, how would you give a breakdown of how someone would handle it?
Looking at it from a more systematic angle, I'd say the key is to separate the person from the performance. First, you name the friction without making it a problem. Just a factual observation, like, I noticed you've been a bit quieter than usual.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps them from getting defensive. Then you create a bridge by offering a low pressure way for them to share something like, no pressure to dive in now, but I'm here if things are feeling a bit off. Finally, you bring it back to the team goal, but with a modified timeline or a temporary shift in support. It's about letting them know the standard hasn't changed, but the way we get there can be flexible. Does that feel too clinical compared to how you usually handle it, or does it hit the mark?
No, I mean, it sounds pretty accurate. And I feel like for anyone, whether it's, professional or related to a project, or even if it's a friend or a family member, I approach things like that a little bit more, just because, this is something that I have been involved with for many years and trained, to observe those kinds of things and how to respond and react to it.
It makes sense that those two worlds blend together.
Hmm.
When you've spent that much time in a high stakes environment like special education, that kind of situational awareness just becomes part of your DNA. It's not a technique anymore, it's just how you see the world.
Yeah, it's just who you are and how you operate.
That's the gold standard right there.
Mhm.
When it's just part of your operating system, it's a lot more authentic than someone trying to follow a script.
Right.
I feel like that's why people probably trust you so quickly because they can tell you're actually seeing them, not just managing them. Do
True.
you feel like that intuitive side of you ever clashes with the more structured side of your work, like the deadlines and the paperwork?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I have a clash of personalities and dispositions all the time when it comes to, the boss and in charge me and the empathic, sympathetic me that, always wants to take care of individuals. So it's definitely, two parts of me that butt heads all the time.
That's the classic internal battle, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's like having a project manager and a therapist living in your head at the same time.
Accurate.
One's looking at the clock and the other's looking at the soul.
Right.
How do you usually decide which one gets the final word when they're really fighting?
It really depends on the circumstances and how difficult or complicated it is, and what the required response is. And so it depends. Yeah.
Makes sense.
All
It's kind
right.
of like a sliding.
I'm sorry. What?
I just meant it's like a sliding scale depending on the situation. Some
Hmm.
days the bosses has to take the wheel to get things done, and other days the empath takes over because that's what the person actually needs.
Right.
It's all about that balance.
Yeah, I'm being able to
It's like a,
recognize that.
and honestly, knowing when to switch gears is the real skill.
Right.
Most people just pick one mode and stick to it, even when it's clearly not working.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why some people struggle so much with leadership? Because
Uh,
they can't
I,
find that middle ground?
it might be because a lot of times, and even just an observation of other individuals that are, in lead role positions, that too many people take it to an extent of discomfort because they're too much corporate, and not enough empathetic.
Exactly.
Hmm.
They treat the role like a shield to hide behind instead of a bridge to connect with their team.
Right. And some people
It's
just
like they
don't
think,
have that internal ability to be able to connect with people like that on that level, unfortunately.
yeah, that's that's the tragedy of it. Some people just don't have that wiring, or
Right.
they're so afraid of being seen as
Hmm.
weak that they kill the part of them that actually connects.
Right.
Makes the whole work environment feel sterile, like you're just a gear on a machine.
Hmm.
Do you think that's something that can be learned, or is that level of empathy just something you're born with?
It can be learned, but it requires observation of self to be able to.
Right. The self observation part is where most people trip up, because it's not just about learning a set of rules, it's about actually being willing to look at your own reactions
Mhm.
and the energy in the room.
Yeah.
It takes a kind of humility to realize you might be the one creating the friction.
Yes.
I wonder if you've seen people try to learn empathy, but it just comes off as a performance because they skip the self awareness part.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times.
It's like it's like they're reading from a script.
Yeah.
I hear you and
All
I
right,
understand,
Miles.
but the energy is completely off. It's a total vibe mismatch. I feel
Absolutely.
like you can tell instantly when someone is just checking a box instead of actually feeling the weight of what you're saying.
Hmm.
It's the most obvious tell in the world. That's where the real connection happens, when you can feel that the other person is actually in it with you,
Hmm.
not just acting the part. You've given me a lot to think about with how that plays out in your work with your students.
So we
I'll be
both
wrapping
are
up the. I'm
walking
with you.
away with new
What's the final?
intel, huh?
Absolutely. I'm definitely walking away with a new lens on this. I'm ready. What's the final word for the audience?
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out our chat because we have overran our time, and we like to keep this in a minimal digestible form to, be able to expand your own thinking outside of the conversation. But as always, I thank you for joining us, and I hope that you have some wonderful takeaway with growth and expansion from our conversation, and keep learning and expanding those hearts, minds, and horizons. And I thank you, Miles, for joining me. And
Anytime.
until next
There's
time, namaste.
namaste.
Namaste. Bye, everyone.
Catch you later. Take care.